Welcome to the Northwoods Kindred podcast. I'm Skogul, Gidja of the Northwoods Kindred.
And I'm Gråfjell, kinsman of the Northwoods Kindred.
And I'm Bodvarr, the Chieftain and gothi of the Northwoods. Welcome to the Northwoods Kindred podcast. Today, we're going to talk about just basic Kindred stuff. I think we're going to talk about a couple of different topics. One of them being like the pitfalls of being Kindred leadership. And then we'll talk about maybe the differences between a military and a civilian kindred, because there's definitely some pretty substantial differences.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll just kind of go where the conversation takes us, eh?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's get into it.
In days of yore, youth was born, the sturdy strength of the stock of gods. At the edge of the earth, maidens 9 gave birth and suckle to the brightest of the gods.
This vote has ended. Thank you all.
Group hug!
Pitfalls of being a kindred leadership. One of them that I'll talk about is that you've always got to represent the kindred in the proper light. And if you want to know how we do it, we have our link tree set up.
Yes,
So
yes.
the way our kindred's represented, we're all over the net, obviously, but we have to be very cautious about what we put out and what we keep private, because people's personal stuff and things like that. But we have a foothold on TikTok, which is about ready to go away. Fuck you, Congress. And
Ooh.
so TikTok may be going away because we got a pretty good following there. But we also have a really big following on YouTube with lots of videos and more instructional long form stuff. And then and then this podcast, which is on all the podcasting platforms. So wherever you're consuming this, just know that there's a video component, and it looks pretty good. We're in our new studio here.
Well, as you say, we're nice looking people on this side of the camera.
Yeah, we're not hard to look at. So big wink from Gråfjell. And so I'm just saying, it's basically just a shameless plug to kick this thing off. But check out our link tree. It's listed below wherever this podcast is. If it's not there, bounce over. Just Google Northwoods Kindred. You'll find something that we're connected to. And then you can find a link tree with all the other cool stuff, including our products, our digital media stuff. And this is how we represent our kindred to the world. Now, I don't expect every kindred is going to do that. They're certainly not going to do it well. Some of them won't. Some of them will. Some of them are just going to blow us away. But we're the first ones to really kind of just take our private kindred practice and display it for the world, right? And then and then just put our stuff out and let people judge us. Like, judge away, man. We're happy to deal with it. So
Yeah, I mean, it's all about picking up what you like and throwing away what you don't, right? So,
and sometimes that takes a little bit of trial and error. You can't know what you're going to like if you don't try stuff, right?
Yeah, and I think that kind of segues perfectly over into the leadership aspect of the pros and cons about picking up things that you liked from either other mentors, because you are my mentor, even though I've stepped away from the gothi role of the Iron Ravens Kindred, right? That you still are my mentor in many other ways, but there are also a lot of things that I'm not going to do that you do. And there are things that I wasn't going to incorporate, especially going into the military side of the house as running a kindred. But being able to know that resource was out there was a huge, huge, huge game changer for me, because my time was a sprint,
Right.
And
we've kind of had that going for us for a long time too, because we've always had Håkon of Gjallarhorn, at least since we've been publicly connected with Asatru. We did a long spell of just like our own private practice like everybody else does. But for the rest of the time, we always had Håkon. And before we had a kindred, and before I was a kindred leader, we were always still members of Gjallarhorn. And we always had Håkon to turn to, like, hey, bro, we're in a pickle, and we don't really know how to sort these things out spiritually or whatever. He was always there for us for that. So And he always had really good advice. I don't know where he gets it, but it was always good advice.
Yeah, he's always had really good advice and really unique ways of looking at things.
Yeah.
I know I talked to him quite a few times, and it's like, but did you look at it in this angle? And it's like, like mind blown. Like, how did I not think of that?
Well, so I think sometimes it's kind of hard to. It's really kind of hard to see all angles when you're emotionally invested in something, and that's really a really strong point where having a mentor is a benefit because that mentor is not necessarily emotionally invested in what your problem is, so they can look at it from a more kind of a more universal view. So I can look at your problem not as you look at your problem, and I can say, well, have you considered the other people? Have you considered these other things? Just like Haken does to us. That's a benefit that a lot of people don't have, I think, coming into this. They don't have a mentor. But, you do have communities because we have a great Discord community.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of people on there. They may not be your mentors, but they'll be able to at least be trustworthy and evaluate a problem from a universal or a nonpartisan viewpoint, right?
I think the thing that really a little bit of shameless plug when it comes to the Northwoods Kindred Discord, because I'm not super prevalent on there, but every single time I go on there, the only thing I ever see that's continuously present is tolerance and temperance towards people, and just trying to ask the why before chastising anybody, because I've been a part of a lot of other Discords, so many other Asatru or Norse Pagan Discords, and the willingness for people to fire at individuals for either kind of saying something slightly wrong, or maybe the verbiage was incorrect or something along that nature, was really prevalent, and then it would just stay, or people would build on it. But that doesn't happen on the Northwood Kindred Discord page. It's typically hey, you said this, what did you mean exactly? Help us understand.
Right.
And then if something does go haywire, it's shut down so quickly.
Well, that's largely in part to having Garvard and Lakenir as our moderators. It's helpful, too, that Garvard's in Norway, so there's almost always somebody on duty.
Yeah.
Yes.
And by the time we wake up in the morning, we get a morning report, and it's this stuff happened at night, I took care of it, I banned this guy, or I had to get rid of this troll, or this happened, what do you think I should, what do you think? But we give our moderators full authority to do that, and they don't abuse it. They're very careful.
Yeah. Well, this is also something that we immediately, it was at the forefront, because we've dealt with that hate and anger and no, you're wrong, Colonel Sanders on the other side,
right?
And that's something we didn't want to deal with. And then also the fact that you couldn't talk about yourself and you couldn't show yourself and show some of the things that you do and some of the things that you make and your accomplishments and your websites and your crafts. A lot of places you can't promote yourself.
Yeah,
So
I always thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's something we really tried to change.
And we created boards for it. So we have, Braggy's Round, which is, of course, Braggy's Round is the third round of Summel, but Braggy's Round is a board on our Discord. It's just a place for you to brag on what you did. Hey, look, I made this thing. Hey, I did this thing. Hey, here's a video I made on YouTube, and just let everybody talk on themselves too, because you can't really feel comfortable in a family if you can't go in and brag on your accomplishments, right?
Yeah.
It's like some of those Discords and some of those Facebook pages and stuff. All you're allowed to do is promote the page or the page owners. You're not allowed to promote yourself or talk about something cool you did, and that's why they turn into big meme pages, because you can't do anything but post memes of hot Viking chicks, which we all love, but we don't.
We all love,
but we don't have those. We don't have those on our Discord. We don't have there's no room for it. There's no place for it.
And I know that I would say probably once a week or so, people come on our Discord and they're like, well, I would really show you, but I'm not really sure if that's appropriate. And immediately our people are like, yeah, that's appropriate.
Yeah, it's appropriate.
Post it over here.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this is something I'm not used to.
Yeah. But now, I guess with the temperance and the tolerance that we do have on the Discord, I think one thing that we have that gets in the way a little bit is sometimes we're a little too tolerant when people come in to troll. And sometimes they get away with, none of it sticks around. We'll always figure it out eventually. But sometimes they get away with it. We're giving them the benefit of the doubt a little bit too much sometimes.
I think part of that is because of me, because it's like, oh, maybe we should, because I know there's sometimes you're like, oh, we should get rid of them. They're a troll, and it's like, are they, or are they just being,
Yeah, are they just ignorant or naive? Yeah.
So I think that has a lot to do with me, and yeah, I need to be more.
No, I think it's a good combination. We need both sides of that coin. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to like segue right back into it again, but like being able to balance those two things, and there is definitely a balance when it comes to being in that leadership position and being able to be like, okay, is this ignorance? Is this someone playing a little bit of bit of games with me and just trying to have a josh and see if I'm human too, or is this someone that's kind of just trolling for the sake of trolling and really not trying to grow anything and do anything constructive? And do I need to kind of put this hammer down?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, when they come to a Kindred, they're not looking for any type of authority.
Right.
They're not looking for an authoritative figure. A lot of people are leaving to try and get away from that because they're leaving the church.
Right.
Or they're leaving whatever establishment, maybe a parent's house or something. Right. And then they come over here and you're like, well, we still have that kind of, in a way. Like, you can't get away from authority. There was still an authoritative role even back then.
Yeah, there had to have been. Yeah, everybody had their role in society, and some were higher up on that ladder than others. But we've even stepped away. I think for the most part, Skogul and I have stepped away even from our own Discord, in that we let our moderators run it, because I found, especially earlier on, when I would interject into a topic and I would have the conversation about the topic, people would tend to just side with me. And and I don't want people to side with me. I want to hear the diverse opinions, because they may change my own mind. So now I read the boards and I read all the pages, but I only step in if there's like a very important piece of information that maybe somebody's missing, or or there has to be something injected into the conversation that matters. If not, I'll let the two fight it out or argue it out or work out the details. And sometimes they put me on a path and I'm like, wow, is that real? Let me go look this up and see if what they're talking about is real. Which that's a benefit that I wouldn't normally get if I was a part of the conversation from the beginning. So it seems like I'm not really super involved in my own Discord, but I read everything and I'm on there with the mods every day talking to those guys. But I just found that my interaction in the Discord makes people a little bit more shy about stating their own opinion. And I want to hear what people think, so I stay out of the conversation for the most part, unless I'm drawn into it or asked to comment on something.
Do you find that being in a leadership position, whether that's like just in the Kindred itself or your virtual, I guess, persona and where you are, that gets in the way of you getting to learn, and from people really trying to explore their own path? Because I don't know, because sometimes I feel like when you're in that position, you kind of end up being, I don't want to use the word Viking Jesus, but that's the kind of thing I'm going to go with. Like, your word is now the gospel word. Like,
I know exactly
follow the Church of Bodvarr type of shit.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the case with everybody. In fact, I find that there are people that think like that, and that's why I try to withdraw as much as possible and just kind of bring out the conversation and absorb it and add as little to it as I possibly can, because I don't want to sway opinion one way. I want to hear what people really think, honestly, because I really do grow that way. But on the other side is people will come out almost militantly against me, thinking that I think I'm the Messiah. You know, like I'm the guy who's in charge of this thing and you got to do it my way or the highway. But that's not the way I think at all. Like, I want to hear how everybody's doing it. I want to hear all your little things. And you got this one little tiny nugget of information from some saga or something that I haven't read. Or, man, I want to hear that. I want to incorporate that into what I'm doing. I want to try new things. I think one of the things the issue that I've had with some of the older gothis that I've come across with is that they're so set in their ways that they don't listen to anybody anymore. They're like, this is the way we've done it for 25 years. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been on the Asatru path for 47 years. Like, the timeline gets longer and longer, and they get more and more hard set in their ways, but they're not willing to just like learn new stuff, because there's new stuff every day. Fuck, they just found a bunch of like Viking runes that predated some other shit on a brachiate, right? They found some new stuff that made the runes go back a little bit farther. Like, there's all this stuff. Like, I don't get too big into that archaeological stuff, but the point is, new information comes out. One of these days, some farmer's going to be plowing in his field and flip over a prow of a Viking boat, and they're going to dig that thing up, and they're going to have a whole bunch of information that flips this whole system on its ass. And if you're so rigid that you can't adjust to the new system, then what are you doing, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I answered your question, but...
No, you did. You did. I will say from like personal experience that I'll have like, or I would have Kindred members previously that they would ask me for my opinion on a thing, and then I would give them a very blatant response. We'll use the one where it's just like, hey, do you venerate Loki? And I was just like, well, no, I don't. They're like, oh, well, we're not going to do a bloat to Loki in the Kindred. It's like, well, not while I'm the gothi. No, we won't. Because of X, Y, and Z, and this is the way that I was taught, and this is the way that we're doing it, and people agreed with this voting process to keep going this route. And then it'll just end and it'll stop. And then they'll take that as the word of, well, I can't do this in private.
Yeah.
Well, I can't do this here. Well, now it needs to be hush hush. I'm like, that's not what I said, man. I just said that we're just not going to do that aspect here.
And see, in that case, I would add the caveat of, we're not going to do it collectively, but I'll certainly show you how you can do it so you can take charge of your own spirituality. If that's the way you feel that you need to do that, then I'll show you how you can do that. But I don't think it's appropriate for a group setting, you know? And then, you know, to have that conversation. But I think you always got to have that caveat, but where you always throw in that extra, what do you think? Or if this is what you think is right, I will help you figure out how to do that, you know? Because that's really our goal. Our goal as Kindred leadership is supposed to be able to mentor people to find their own path. We're not supposed to be the priest. We're not supposed to be the middleman between the measly human and the gods. We're supposed to be just mentors and say, hey, we're on a path too. If this path looks like something that you want to be on, then follow me, because I'm still trying to figure it out too. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, this is what got me to this point, and if this is the point you want to get to, this is what got me there. You know, walk your own path. You know, I don't know if I'm rambling or not, but she said yes.
Oh, well,
I did not.
So with that kind of a guidance thing, I think that's really like one of the major roles of the gothi. The chieftain role is something completely different, in my opinion. So my gothi and chieftain is Håkon of Gjallarhorn, and he's always filled both of those roles seamlessly, but it was very easy to tell the difference between when he was acting as chieftain or acting as gothi. For at least as far as I understand it, the gothi role is simply just the spiritual leader and occasionally the guide on spiritual stuff. Like, hey, I really want to know how to do this thing. Okay, check this saga, look at this thing. Like, that's when you would go to your gothi. But the chieftain makes the leadership decisions, right? Yeah. The chieftain is the face of the kindred to the outside world. Even if your chieftain is separate from your gothi is just a religious leader. The chieftain is the one who's locking on camping trips and organizing these events and talking to other kindreds, and the chieftain is the one that's really kind of greasing the wheels and making things work. He is the CEO, essentially, of the kindred.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas the gothi is just, you know, the operations officer. Really, he just makes things, he just does the event, right? Yeah.
No, really, the chieftain is responsible for the orchestration of everything that the kindred is doing. And then the gothi is just hitting this one piece of the pie. Right. You know, where it's just the spiritualistic practice, and depending on like how many roles and responsibilities you have, because if you have like a runar or someone that does like satyr or what have you in there, that also lessens the pie of what that gothi really is going to be covering. Because sometimes it can come down to just, I only do the bloats and the summos. Right. You know?
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's fine, but like, just know that the chieftain has a lot on their plate being that face.
And sometimes, I think probably even in a lot of cases, I know it was in Gjallarhorn's case, and it certainly is here, the chieftain is also kind of the financier. Like, the things that you don't think about for a gathering are propane for the grill, you know, paper plates and forks, just the little things.
Toilet paper,
the ribbons for ribbons for the maypole, the location itself, like all those things are on the chieftain to provide, right? Now, you can do that by collecting dues for your kindred. You can do that by doing fundraisers. We do none of that. But we yet. I mean, we got some things in the works.
Yeah.
But ultimately, really, running Northwoods Kindred isn't a very expensive undertaking anyway.
Yeah.
It's not really that much.
No, because our kinsmen are very generous too.
Well, a Star Quest gets expensive.
Oh, a Star
sometimes,
Quest gets so expensive.
Yeah. And then we can't even play because we have to administer it. We got to run it.
Yes.
But so there's sometimes you don't get to have the same fun, and that's really a good example where as Chieftain and Gothi and Gidya, we don't get to have as much fun on some of those events because we're so busy organizing them, and we have to keep it tight because the more people know about it, the less people get to experience
We
the
don't
fun.
even get to enjoy it because they cheat a lot.
They are some cheating. This Kindred is some cheating ass. Like if I don't specifically restrict it in the rules, they will find a loophole.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I mean, you can't act like you're not impressed. You're like, come on, man.
yeah,
You really?
So
Yeah.
going back to where you say, the gothi is, I'm just here for bloat and stumble. You do have to, and I don't think a lot of people consider it, is they are a spiritual guidance for people. They are a counselor. That's something we've done quite often, and we've also gone to our gothi, his getting counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Because shit gets hard.
Yeah.
Hard.
And especially when you're emotionally invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're trying to figure out how to integrate the gods and the religion into your life and problems that you might have and issues you have with other religions or with other people. And it's nice to have somebody who can. I think we kind of already started going down that path, but something we didn't actually mention that I want to mention, I want to kind of make it really clear, is that I'm the gothi and she's the Gidya, and I'm the chieftain, but she could be the chieftain too, or instead of. If I didn't want to be the chieftain, she could be the chieftain, or anybody else could be the chieftain. The chieftain can be male or female.
Yes.
And in truth, you could even say your gothi is male or female. Gidya, I think, is more of a made-up word. I don't think it's a traditional word. There's absolutely historical records in Iceland of female gothis of a district that were the district gothis.
So
there's no record of a Gidya that I'm aware of. I think that's more of a modern term.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that's at,
yeah.
and I've never found it, like historically. But we use it to distinguish the male from the female now. But I don't think that that's necessary. If a female wanted to call herself a gothi and be the chieftain of a tribe, that's perfectly acceptable. Mm-hmm. And I think it's perfectly historic as well. So I just wanted to make that clarification that as we're talking about chieftain and gothis, that's male or female. It's really gender neutral, right?
Yeah.
Gidya is the way we do it because we can distinguish between each other. And that term's been around for quite a while, and it's fairly common. Everybody knows it. So I think it's okay to use that term. I think you probably prefer Gidya over gothi anyway, right?
I do. I mean, it's been my whole path.
Yeah. So but when you get into something like a Seidman or a Volva, like Volva is obviously a female thing, right? There's no male Volva. That would be a Seidman, or there's other things that are gender specific, but I think gothi and chieftain are both gender neutral. Just kind of throwing that out there anyway. Anyway, no need to beat a dead horse, but
yeah, and I wish that I had gotten more of that time, right? So like leaving the Iron Ravens Kindred, as sad as that is, just due to military life and having to do all of that. I wish that I had more of those counseling sessions, more of those, man, I really feel just either like disconnected or apart from the gods, or there are these things that are going in my life. I feel like, they're just not around and all that kind of stuff. Because I know I've definitely come to you about those things. And I've even reached out to Hawken about those things. I even talked to you, sis.
Mm-hmm.
And, instead, like, you just get a lot of the, how come we don't do this? Why won't we do that? And I'm like, okay, I get it. It's great. It's great challenging, but you're not hearing me when you talk. You just see me as an obstacle and not like a vehicle for understanding, and maybe an opportunity to grow or to learn.
right.
Now I'm just being seen as an obstacle in which maybe somebody else could do it better. you know, like, well, I would have done it a different way. I would do it something other. So you must be wrong, which is kind of a bummer. One of the cool ones that I got was we had a guy who like hit me up on the phone. I was just about to go down to Texas because there was some stuff going on with my family. And he was like, hey, man, how do I build my own altar? And I was like, oh, this is actually fun. Like, this is a really nice, fun thing to do. Like, all right, man, well, let's get into it. Let's think about, like, should that mean to you and everything else. And we were working about it. And just from talking with him was able to kind of come up with this concept of, well, think about it. It's like a personal seat in the house for the gods. You know, like, so what do you want it to be? Do you want them to be when they're sitting there, like where you put it in your house? Is it a nice, relaxing view? Is it an area that you guys frequent where like wonderful conversations are had with you and your spouse? Is there a window nearby where natural light is hitting? Like, give them the best seat in the house type of thing. When you look at your altar, like, is it cluttered? Is it kind of gaudy? Do you like that? If not, consider making it sparse and very relaxed and chill. Like, if I look at my hoard, I should hopefully smile, you know, and feel relaxed and calm and close. Not, oh man, there's so much stuff and it doesn't fit with everything else.
Yeah, and it gives me anxiety because it's such a mess.
Yeah.
Right.
But those are the type of conversations I like to have as a gothi or as a person in a leadership role.
Yeah.
You know, those are like the good ones.
Well, I have learned and experienced that in my role, learning to be a spiritual counselor, that it doesn't just begin and end within the Kindred. I find that for some reason other people are drawn to me and they want to you know, kind of spill their guts to me and kind of get my take on it. And it's like, ooh.
You're talking about outside the Kindred,
Yeah,
like at work and
Kindred.
stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think once you get into that role of being that
A sympathetic ear?
yeah, that person for someone, that other people can see that and they come to you. Because I get that a lot at work.
I think most people are a little more intuitive than they give themselves credit for. And they know who's a bad guy and who's a good guy and who they can talk to and who they can't. But they still deny that they have that sort of intuition. So they tell the wrong people the wrong information and they get taken advantage of. And it just, everybody just keeps to close up and close up and close up. That's probably one of the big advantages to having something like a Kindred, is that like everybody's trustworthy. Now, everybody, we've all had our trials. You know, we've had people come in and go even from the Northwoods. There are people that have been in and their time here has been short or it's been long and ended catastrophically. You know, it happens. It's going to happen with all Kindreds, but it can't destroy the Kindred, you know. But I think a big benefit of it is that you have these people that you can talk to that aren't going to try and benefit from your hardship, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to try and take a moment of your weakness and use it against you for their own gain. That's not going to happen, you know. I think that by the time, at least in this Kindred, by the time you earn your way into this Kindred, you've already proven that you're useful, you know, that you're trustworthy, that you're compassionate and caring. Maybe some people talk, you know, are a little more active than other people, but everybody is here for the right reasons, you know. And then the reasons that people leave is because sometimes they get on a different path, you know. When they were here on the path because everything that we had was mutually, you know, working, you know. But people get on different paths, they have different life circumstances, and they have to go. You know, I don't want to get too much into any of the issues that we've had, but because ultimately that's not really public business.
Yeah.
But we survived it. That's what's important. Because I've even seen some comments online. They're like, oh, Kindreds never last longer than a year and a half. Gallahorn Kindred is probably pushing 25, 30 years.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
This Kindred here, Northwoods, what are we going on, our 4th birthday?
4th birthday.
Right?
Yeah.
Iron Ravens, you're at 2.5 years now. Like, Kindreds do live. They do survive if they have the right amount of leadership and the right systems in place.
Yes, and that really boils down to, I think, growth. It's really on how quick you grow. Because those that grow very quickly burn very easily.
Yeah, when you're just trying to rack up numbers.
Yes.
We were for a long time there. It was just you, me, and Corey. It was the three of us, and and our kids.
Yeah.
For a long period of time, and we brought people in, and they would come in, and they would go, and the group thing just wasn't their thing, for the longest time. And then we started bringing in, I think Har came after that, right? And then we just brought people. Some other people have come in, and some people have gone, and that's just the name of the game. But slowly, as we do this, we're still slowly climbing. But those that start out like that always fall.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, I feel that. I know I definitely fell trapped to the chasing the numbers game. And that's just because I knew how many pagans and polytheistic active duty military members there were on the base. And I was like, well, I could reach out and I could help all these people. I could be there. Like, nobody has to be alone anymore. And you get so caught up in what was your shortcomings and the reasons why you wanted to start a group that you never looked to see if other people even wanted to be in a group, or that they even wanted to be a part of your group.
Right.
And so I was just like, well, I need to add all these numbers, and look how wonderful things we can do if we're in these massive amounts. Because for the military side of the house, the more numbers you have, the more the base will pay attention to you, the better things you can get, and the better opportunities you can provide everybody.
Right.
Like that's what commanders want to see. That's what first sergeants want to see. That's what chiefs want to see is, oh man, we had this whole giant population on the base of like 100-something airmen and their families, and they weren't represented before, but now we are. So let's give them an outside vey on the base, because now it's bragging rights for us. I'm like, yeah, you take the bragging rights, and we'll take this awesome worship space that like probably should have been made available 10 fucking years ago.
Yeah. Did they do that? Do you have an outside space now?
No, we do not.
Still working on that. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I didn't hear that. That's great news.
No, you would have known. That would be amazing.
So I guess that's really a good segue into like sort of the differences between having what we have as a civilian kindred and then a military kindred. Now, I didn't have anything like that when we were in the military. We were a part of Gjallarhorn, which is a civilian kindred, which was, it still kind of had some contradictions, because now being a military member, I would have to be cautious about some of the things that we did, because civilians don't necessarily have the same concerns that I have. They don't have the same concerns about mixing and mingling with people with substances, and you know what I mean? So I'd have to be careful about where I would allow myself to be. But we didn't really have that much of an issue with Gjallarhorn. But I'm saying this is an issue that a civilian or a military member joining a civilian kindred, these are the kind of things that they would have to be concerned about.
Oh, yeah.
Are substances being used that could get me in trouble at work? Are things being done that can get me in trouble at work? Whereas the value in having an exclusive military on-base kindred is like way up here, right? Over as opposed to being a part of a. But you're active duty, and you're a member of, you're an oath to member of this kindred. Mm-hmm. So if anything, the kindred should make sure that they minimize those conflicts for you personally or for the military member. And Gjallarhorn was always really good about that with me, because when I joined Gjallarhorn kindred, I was just a sergeant. Getting back from a deployment, and I retired a gunnery sergeant, and we've been hanging with Gjallarhorn the whole time. So they did really well to keep me separated from that stuff,
Yeah, there's a mutual respect type of thing going on, and it made it really easy for the Northwoods because prior military,
right?
So many of Northwoods kindred are all prior military, so the name of the game was known. It's like, yeah, I'm active duty. I'm over here at Fairchild, yada, yada, yada. And they're like, okay, cool. So maybe don't go to this event, or, like maybe when you're here, like hang out here, or go check whatever else out, and be like, okay, cool. No, that makes sense. Or if I knew I wasn't going to be around long, or if I started to grow really close to this kindred, like how we were coming up, we always knew in the back of my mind, hey, this guy might PCS. You know, which is rough.
Well, that was always a concern with me too. Mm-hmm. And it did happen. When I was with Gjallarhorn, we moved to Northern California, and our kindred, we'd only see him once or twice a year. And then we moved to Mississippi, where the only person from the kindred we saw was Hawken. What, twice maybe? Once or twice?
I think once.
Just once
in Mississippi. Yeah.
Once, because we weren't there very long when I wasn't deployed. And then up here, now we see Hawken occasionally, and we go to California as well to see him and back and forth. But all of Gallahorn kind of poofed to the winds. But yeah, that's always a concern when you have a civilian kindred that's not going anywhere and you have military members. So a military kindred, I imagine, is probably pretty frustrating too, because people come in and then they PCS, and you get to really build this kind of bonds of kinship. But at the same time, you get to mentor someone so that they can go to their next duty station and create what you already have.
Yeah, we had that just recently. One of our guys, Max, ended up having to go on a deployment, and then while he was out there, he made a small kindred. Was it like 3 or 5 people? Yeah, and I understand that for a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, that's super small. I'm like, well, welcome to the name of the game of being a North Pagan in the military. Everything we're going to do is small. What matters is that 3 to 5 people that didn't have that support in a deployed location before.
Right.
And he did that. And it doesn't matter if he just showed up once, showed everybody the way, and then they kept doing it without him. Because guess what? That's the dream, is to teach it and then for it to continue on after you.
Right.
For
sure.
But yeah, it is a kind of a bummer, especially from watching Iron Ravens get built up to this point and then knowing like, oh man, at the end of this year I gotta go.
Yeah.
I can't. That's why I chose to leave sooner rather than later, was that way I can be like, okay, cool, I can leave, kind of maybe watch from the sidelines.
Yeah, offer a couple of tips of advice or whatever.
Yeah, tips of advice, see how things are going, and if there's any chances of like being able to help out or do a little thing here and there, then awesome. But mostly it's like, hey, baby bird, you need to fly to the nest.
Yeah, that's a real cool way to look at it too, because you get to step back and let them start to lead themselves and build whatever they want. And it's probably not going to be the same thing that you tried to build. I'm sure it's going to evolve into something different, be with different leadership and everything, but that's the nature of the beast. And when their leadership leaves, it's going to evolve into something different. It's going to continue to evolve, I would think, over time. But it's pretty good of you to step back while you're still here, not stay in that ego role of having to be the boss the whole time, but be able to step back and just watch it happen and then be like, yeah, maybe you guys can make a little tweak here, make a tweak there. And then when you leave, it's in good hands because you've watched them do that for 6 months or whatever.
It definitely took a large hit to the ego kind of watching. I think that this definitely adheres to a military kindred because we need to be so inclusive and we need to be so welcoming to like so many different faith groups that you have to have a good pulse on the kindred and see and watch how it changes and grows. So like for Iron Ravens, there's such a large umbrella of different faith groups that want to follow under it that like you could kind of see Iron Ravens slowly starting to change. The conversations started becoming more eclectic and more wide ranging and more all encompassing. And then you also have to have that lack of ego to go, you know what? This isn't really me anymore, but this is obviously something that Fairchild needs.
Right.
And that's more important.
So in retrospect, would you say that maybe you should have started Iron Ravens as more of a collective and then spun off with a dedicated Norse pagan group? Or do you think that would have been probably a more beneficial arrangement?
That was a really interesting point that was brought up in a meeting. And the big thing was just like, we're not big enough. Our Iron Ravens is not big enough to really have multiple separate groups like that.
Okay.
It would have been good to have had a thorough understanding on what a kindred, like being a kindred really is and what it means, and that it's okay if you don't meet that definition.
Right. To just find another name other than kindred, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a kindred to be legitimate.
Yeah, and maybe like have something that's more bland at the beginning and take it slow. Like, and if you think you're going slow enough, slow down a little bit more. Because you're probably not. Because every time, doesn't matter what type of group, doesn't matter what type of club, doesn't matter what type of organization you run, when it first starts, everyone's hyped. Everyone wants to shoot for the moon. Everyone's going to put their best foot forward. And then 6 months is going to pass and you're going to see a lot of that steam die off. So go slow in the beginning. Yeah. I think that if I had to redo it over, I would have not made it associated with the Air Force. I would have let it be a bunch of military members.
Like a private club on base?
Yeah.
Sort of a thing, yeah.
Like a bunch of military members, but we're not under the Air Force umbrella. And we did do that for a few reasons.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, at least being under the Air Force umbrella, though, you get funding and financing and
Yeah, we get a lot of protection, and we get a lot of advertisement, whether or not we choose to use it or not, right? But and we get the opportunity to say, like, there are bragging rights. Like in the military, we have like annual performance reports. So for individuals and for things like, so if people want to say like, hey, we started up this first ever Fairchild thing, well, it needs to be an organization for you to be able to say that you did it,
right?
Type of thing. If that's something that you've wanted to use, but that's a lot of like the political side of the house. That's all kind of bullshit. So, but yeah, like you have to pick and choose. There's always the pros and cons with every decision that you use, and some of that needs to be voted on, and there needs to be a record.
Right.
Like, can't stress that enough. There needs to be a record, so whenever something's been made and it comes into question, you can refer to it later.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's always a good practice.
That's something we do too.
Yeah. Going back to your, coming in hot and then after 6 months kind of cooling off. I mean, that is exactly why we have such a long process for new members here. I mean, we have our bonding process, and you know that very well.
Oh yeah.
Because people do come in hot, and they they come in with great intentions, and they just want to be all in, and then a few months down the road it just kind of dies down. All that sexy, cool stuff kind of dies down when it's like, hey, I need you to go chop firewood again. It's like, oh man, again?
Yeah.
Hey, I need you to do this, and it's like, oh, come on, man, I'm just out here for the maypole. Yeah.
All those firsts are exciting. That first bloat's just something. It's just mind-boggling. It's just
magic.
so amazing.
Yeah.
Right? But that 100th bloat is like, it's not.
Oh yeah.
It's not that it lacks any sort of luster. It's just not that amazing burst of. It's like meth, I guess. Like the first time you do it, every other time you're chasing that high, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I understand. I've never done that stuff, but from what I understand with any of that, with meth or heroin or any of those like real hardcore drugs, is like the first time they take it, it's like, oh, this is amazing, and then they just chase that and they never quite get there.
We're so good as like human beings of like taking something that's beautiful, and then if we get to see it in like a multiple times, that like we start to devalue it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I remember being small segue story time. I remember being in Singapore and driving, and I was at work, and the view is just absolutely breathtaking. You gave me 2 weeks in this beautiful country, and all of a sudden I'm just ignoring this beautiful view now.
Yeah.
Like the high is gone. The love, the romance is gone. The honeymoon stage.
Yeah, the honeymoon's over.
Yeah. And just having to have that awareness of being like, wow, how cool is this still actually?
I think as long as we're segued anyway, I think that has a lot to do with just the human sort of we have a tendency to lean towards routine. And what happens is it doesn't take very long when you get into something to build a routine, and then you just start running on autopilot. Our bodies, our brains, they want to run on autopilot. But when you're in a new environment, a new fantastic new landscape or a foreign country or something you've never been to before, everything's brand new, and you're taking it all in and you're living in it right now in this very moment. And then we get used to that moment, we develop a routine, and we're living either in the past or the future again.
Yeah.
We're bouncing between the past and the future. The only time we're living in the moment is when something is brand new, is a brand new experience for us, and we love it. That's what it is. And then we're all in because it's like, nothing ever made me feel like this. It's a brand new experience. It's wonderful. It's amazing. And then it's like, and then then you're back on autopilot and it just becomes routine again. The beauty of that is like when we do our bloats, that's part of the reason why we do the procession and we do the brief every time. That brief is, I don't care if it's just me and her, we're going to do the brief. We're going to talk about getting out of our head, becoming aware of the moment, feel the breeze on your skin, smell the flowers, smell the air, listen to the sheep band in the background, like listen to everything and be aware of the moment right now. And sometimes it helps to just kick off your shoes because you can't mindlessly wander around barefoot. You're going to get poked or pricked. You got to be aware, right? It wakes you up. You're aware of the ground beneath your feet. So that's why we do that every time too, is just kind of bring that awareness to center, because when we go to the Ve, we are in a time between times and a place between places. And The only way to exist in a time between times and a place between places is right here, right now, is that awareness, that moment. So that's kind of where we're at. That, as long as we segue it out into the, into the wilderness, that's what it means to me. So it's really just a matter of us creating a routine around something. And as soon as we can fall into a routine, we can exist in the future or in the past. Yeah. In the Hugin or the Munin. Yeah. The thought of the future or the memory of the past. We never live in the now. So that's the cool thing about Odin. He's got thought and memory on his shoulders. He's got past and future on his shoulders, but he's in the now, right now. So living in the moment. So if anybody's the poster child for living in the moment, it's absolutely Odin.
That is a really good way to think about that. Oh man. But yeah, I think
and with that I'm out.
Yeah, see ya.
Mic drop.
Drop mic on stage. I think one of the pitfalls, I don't know, of like military kindreds is, I think, like putting rank. Right? Because we get so accustomed to this person is in charge of this person, which is in charge of this person, and this is how the rank and file goes. And because you get so used to it in your day-to-day lives, and that's just how the military works, that whenever you build something like a kindred, it just transitions. And that helps for some things. Like, it helps us because we're all like, oh, so this is like this, so now I know how this rolls, and we'll use this rank and file system because it's familiar and it streamlines us. But also it creates that whole, well, I'm not going to ask questions, or I'm not going to question the people that are quote unquote in charge of me.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And then so they get put on this pedestal, and then that can be kind of dangerous.
Right. Yeah. And you should question it. And I know that I went through a moment or a phase, a long phase actually, even while on active duty, where I never questioned anything Haken did. I never asked why. Why do you do it this way? Where did that come from? Where is this in the lore? When I started doing that, there were actually points along the way where I would say to Haken, like, why do you do that? Or what is this? What is the purpose of this? And he's like, oh, that's just the way I do it. Or he'll be like, I don't really know. That's just the way I learned it. You know, because sometimes you just learn something and you're so busy learning it, you just want to learn it. You don't, where it came from is kind of irrelevant at some stage, you know? Like if I was out to learn how to drive a car, I don't really care about who invented the car or why the steering wheel is on the left side. Like, none of that matters. But after you learn to drive the car, eventually you might be like, why is the steering wheel on the left side? You know? Why is it on the right side in England? What made that happen? You might want to get a little deeper, but you still got to learn how to drive the car first, or it doesn't matter. I
got a great example about one of those things that is done that it got brought up right away once the Iron Ravens was born, was why every single time that we do a bloat and it's their turn to talk, they start doing this with their horn.
Yeah.
And I have been asked that so many times.
We get a lot of questions on YouTube too.
Why do you do this? What's the significance? And every single time I have to look at them straight in the face and go, man, I don't know. It was just done one time. I saw it. I did it. It helped. So I kept doing it.
Yeah. I think it's more of a nervous reaction. And in a way, I think it really started. I don't know how long it happened before we were with Haken, but I know Gallahorn's always done it. And I think in some ways it was sort of a flex on each other, because it's like, I just carved this gorgeous horn, and as I'm holding it up and I'm talking about this thing, you're gonna damn see every side of it, you know. Like, yes, it was really a little flex, because there was a moment where Haken and I were like carving, doing these various, I would do something and he would do it better, and I would do something else and then he would do it better, and then he would do something and I would do it better, and it was just like this constant competition about being better. And it wasn't about being better than your brother, it was about bringing out the best in your brother. It was a different kind of competition. And I think that's where a lot of that started. It was like, look what I did, sucker. Like, eat your heart out, fool. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where we were at with that.
It turned into I was talking to one of the guys, David, about it over at the Iron Ravens, and I was like, I don't know, man. For me, it's kind of a tactile thing, because we're mechanics. So like, the more I'm touching something, it's kind of like helping my brain to think.
It is, yeah.
You know, and so like, he's also a mechanic too. And so we like played around with a couple things. Like I had him like explain to me like something about Zelda, and then I said, okay, now hold up the horn and do it, and talk to me about the video game and everything else that was going on. And I think it helped him out, but that was what I took from it, But I kind of like it more now that I know that it came from Gallahorn, and this is just a small trickle down cultural thing that's like existed all the way down.
And we don't even know where it started. I don't know if it started with us or before us. Probably before us. I'm sure that Ragnar did it because it just seems like an arrogant thing. And Ragnar was kind of that kind of a person who would be like da da da, and he would like da 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 and talk like that.
Very theatrical.
Yeah, very theatrical.
Yeah,
that's a good word for him.
Yeah.
So. And that probably started there. And then you got Thorin, and Thorin is very theatrical too, but he was a warrant officer in the Navy. So you can imagine.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, like, I feel there are other pitfalls and drawbacks for being in a military kindred. But, like, one of the plus sides that we have being in a military kindred is typically these, like, we don't have to worry too much about our security and the types of people that are coming over from a civilian kindred, which I think you guys could definitely talk on a little bit.
Yeah, that is a big benefit that I see that you have. There's the drawback that you have to pretty much accept everybody, regardless of what their belief system is. And then, we don't just invite people to our house. Like, some people think that they're entitled to it. We've definitely fought that battle. How dare you have a gathering and not invite me? This is my religion. Okay, well, fuck off. Go create a kindred, dickhead. Those people don't even get a coffee, right? But most of the time, it's like, hey, let's just go meet for coffee. And most lately, we've been doing like these public things, like last week's public hike, and we do coffee. Try to do coffee once a month or so, and just meet people in the community. And maybe after a few meetings, we'll get to know somebody well enough to invite them. That's how I think the first meet for coffee person was actually Jothanhar.
Yes.
Jothanhar, who was the second full member of the kindred, because Corey and I knew each other long before. We've known each other for years before we started the kindred, but he moved. He's gone now. But Jothanhar was the second, and we met for coffee. Elias, who we just voted in, we met for him for coffee.
Yeah.
Initially, him and his brother. His brother's still here, but he's not in yet because of the level of commitment, right?
Yeah.
But we meet for coffee all the time, but not everybody gets the invite back here. It has to fit. It has to fit. We have the luxury of saying, if it doesn't fit, all it's going to do is degrade the system.
But did you guys ever have that pressure to feel like you were doing something wrong by not accepting people and not trying to just invite them and be welcoming?
I don't think so. I think that we were fortunate that we'd been through that phase with Gallahorn as a formal organized kindred, and we had people in that we wished we hadn't, and we were open, and then we had to close doors, and so we went through a lot of that stuff before, so we didn't have to suffer those same pitfalls with Northwoods.
I mean, we knew exactly what we're looking for. We know what works and what doesn't a lot, and there were people that it's like we kind of wish it would have went a little farther than it went, but it didn't, and that's unfortunate. But then you move on and you find somebody that's just amazing. It's like you just instantly click with them. It's like, okay, we just have to wait this required time, and then you're in.
Yeah.
But yeah, we knew what we wanted. We knew what was healthy in a kindred. I guess that's the best way to say is what is healthy. And some people just weren't healthy.
Yeah. What are some, for folks out there that are looking to start their own kindred that are possibly more on the civilian side of the house, what are some of those traits that you have found that maybe, it's easy to pick out the negative traits, but what are some of those positive traits that you typically look for in a potential kindred member?
Well, have you ever you met somebody new at some sort of a public gathering or function or whatever, and you just hit it off instantly, and next thing you know, you're pals and so those are the kind of interactions we're looking for. When we meet for coffee, I want to sit and talk to somebody, and I want to know that they've read the lore. I want to have conversations that kind of trickle down those roads, and I want to talk to people that can actually have an intelligent conversation. I don't want to talk to people that that don't have anything constructive to say. If it's all just about drama and life problems and everything, I want to have fun with people. We want to have fun. Now, I know that I deal with a lot of people with drama and stuff online, and that's fine. That's a whole different interaction. It's a whole different role that I have to play, right? Mm-hmm. But when I'm trying to look for people for the Kindred, I look for people. There's almost always an instant magnetism, people with the right charisma and the right attitude and the right sense of humor, and it's almost instant. But a lot of times that instant feeling, where I think a lot of people get in trouble, is that when they get that instant feeling, they're like, "You're in. Let's go build something great," and they don't let that honeymoon phase wind down.
Yeah, I feel that.
They don't let that wear off, and once that wears off, that might be a different person, right?
Yeah,
that might be one of those people who is perpetually in drama. I said this about some friends recently, that to remain friends with these people, it's going to be very expensive.
Yeah.
So I know that they're good people. I like them. I'll interact with them, but I want to keep arm's distance, because I know that these are the type of people where everything turns into a cost. And I don't necessarily mean a monetary cost, but you can't just be here to support and be friends with these people without there being some cost on the back end. There's always some need that they have that ends up putting you in a pickle to help them. And there's always this kind of a draw on your energy and your resources constantly without any real return.
Yeah.
And a Kindred can't work like that. It will implode instantly. So it's got to be the same kind of level of people who, with a give and take, and you got bad times, I can help you through them. I got bad times, you've certainly helped me through them, right?
Yeah.
Everybody goes in and out of their hole, but you can't live in a hole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to be able to come out of your hole to help everybody else out too. I probably got a little long on that, but
no, it sounds like you really want to see that somebody else can also pick themselves up by their bootstraps.
Yeah.
Eventually, yeah, man, I'm here to help lend you a hand, but don't forget, it's your legs you got to stand on, not mine.
I think it's just emotionally healthy people is really what we're looking for. Because I don't necessarily look for people who happen to be, you don't got to be a veteran, or you don't got to be a cis white male. I don't care about any of that shit, but you have to be emotionally healthy, and you can't require that you always be the center of attention. Right? Yeah. When we go to ritual, attention is on the gods. It's not on you, right? It's not on whatever your need is for the day, or whatever your grift is, or whatever. Sometimes you just got to kind of back off and let that person have the light, because they did something amazing, and we should all focus on them for a moment. Not like, oh, that was great, I did that last year and mine was just a little bit better than yours. Oh, well, fuck you then, get out of my house.
Yeah, don't be that guy.
Yeah.
No,
we don't like that guy.
Yeah. When it's somebody's turn to celebrate the hell out of them, because your turn is coming.
And I think that's emotional health, and that's emotional maturity, is the ability to turn off your bullshit and celebrate someone else's accomplishments, or to put aside your shit and go help somebody out of their problem, right? Because their problem might be catastrophic. And it's so that's the kind of personalities we look for, and you can't get that in a meeting. You get that over time. The first thing that we try to do is find out, is this person dangerous? Is this person going to steal from us? Is this person going to compromise the integrity of the Kindred, or compromise the integrity of the household? It may seem bigoted to some people, but I will not entertain a guest that is actively on parole or probation. I don't hold anything against you. Do the time, you do your crime, whatever. Serve your thing with humanity, and then we can talk, right?
Yeah.
Serve your thing to the state, and then we can have a conversation about potentially joining. But anybody that's actively in the system has already proven that they've broken essentially the rules of society. Make amends for that, and then be a good person, and then we can talk about whether or not you have access to my people.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't feel like I need to be equally give access to people who haven't given equally to society. Right?
Yeah.
And this is one of those moments where, this is another duty of Chieftain, that people don't think on. You are responsible for the other members of the kindred
And their families.
And the people that you bring in that have a record it's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're in charge of these the welfare of these people under your care, and you have to draw some hard lines sometimes.
And I'll even go as far as to say, we used to be, when we were in Gallahorn many, many years ago, members of the Ossatru Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to an all thing, and Valgard, who was the All Heriars Gothi of the Alliance, had invited some people from his prison ministry. So he was doing prison work because it pays well.
Mm-hmm. Pays really well.
Pays
apparently.
good, I guess. Same thing that the AFA does. So he had invited some people who had just gotten out of prison to the Ossatru Alliance. First off, in order to be at an Alliance gathering, you have to be a member of an Alliance kindred. They don't just pick random people, right? The Ossatru Alliance is supposed to be an alliance of independent kindreds. And so they don't put any rules or dogma on the kindreds other than you got to get accepted into the alliance. And then you can go to these gatherings as a kindred or as a leader of a kindred that's been accepted as a member of the alliance. They don't take individual members. It's just not how the organization is set up. But for some reason, he allowed individual members from the prison ministry to come in and spend the weekend with my family in the middle of the freaking Arizona mountains with my little kids running around and my wife running around in the forest.
This is before cell phones even.
Yeah, before cell phones even. With these convicts in the forest with absolutely no information. And I was like, Valgard, what are they even in jail for? I know it's none of my business, but this is my family. And he's like, well, I can't tell you that, and that's none of your business. And I'm like, well, why the fuck are they here? Like, this is supposed to be an alliance of kindred. Like, this is me talking to the All Heriars Gothi, and how dare me speak to him like that? That was one of the things that happened.
And you just didn't even consider.
Yeah, and I was like, there's no fucking way I'm going to stay here in the woods with my family with these people running around. I don't even know what were they in prison for? Rape? Murder? Like, I don't know these people.
Stole a fucking candy bar?
They haven't earned the right to be here and to be free amongst, the people that we love and care for. And that was one of the catalysts that led to us leaving, was that moment where he just essentially... And it wasn't so much about having the convicts there, so don't read too much into that. The idea was that I had a legitimate concern about the safety and welfare of my family and my kindred, and he dismissed it like it was bullshit and it didn't matter because he made a decision, and I could not live in that environment, and that's why we left him, and we left catastrophically. I left in a screaming match with Valgard Murray and Steve McNally, which continued online and got really nasty. But that was the catalyst. That was what started it. So
I think that's one of the big pitfalls of leadership, is thinking that your word is infallible. Mm-hmm. That you can't possibly make a wrong decision. If it's your decision, it can't be a wrong decision.
Right. And I think a lot of kindred leadership will try to surround themselves with weaker people who look up to them for that purpose. And I'm pretty sure that I've surrounded myself with people that will kick that chair right out from underneath me if I try to stand on a soapbox.
Sometimes we do it for fun.
So, but the point is, there's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to make me seem like the guru or the messiah here. You guys would absolutely kick that box out from underneath me and say, "Come back down to earth, dipshit." So nobody's buying that shit. So. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the point. Like, I feel more comfortable in an environment like that because that feels more like a platoon.
Yeah.
This kindred feels more like a platoon and less like a church, right?
Yeah.
So,
God, that'd be so boring.
Yeah, because we'll absolutely play tricks on each other. We'll absolutely cut each other down.
So many games.
So many games.
So many fuck games.
So many fuck games.
Yeah. So I think one of the major differences that we'll find with the military, and we're trying to bridge that gap too, because I really want to work harder on our military outreach and helping the military kindreds. One of those is going to be with our ordination process that we're working on. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, and you can verify this for those that have beef against it for some reason, is that in order to be recognized by the military, you got to have a dogma.
Yeah.
It's got to be dogmatic. The military wants a black and white, cut and dry way to do things that can be turned over from, because you know how it is. Like you should be able to, if you're a formal instructor, you should be able to pick up the master lesson file and go teach a class on something you don't know shit about.
So, like, the thing that what I'm finding that a lot of active duty military, like heathens or Norse pagans, you guys get what I'm trying to say. What they're falling short of is understanding that these are senior enlisted leaders, you know. So like your E7s and up for you Air Force types, and then your O's, right, your squadron commanders and everything else. They don't understand anything about our faith, I mean, because it's so old, yet it is still so young in the military, and we need to help them understand. The only way that they know how to do that, it's been like 16 plus years for them in the military, reading regulations and instructions and like written guidance. So in order to be able to do that, you have to take something that is not dogmatic by nature and put some sort of structure behind it. And a lot of that is getting that endorsement, that DRGL status, that distinct religious group leader status, and following that guidelines and making yourself fluent and being that middle ground, that middle person that can speak both the Norse pagan and military lingo.
Right.
You know, you are that translator.
Yeah, because the commander doesn't want to work on this base and learn it this way, and then go to the next base and it's completely different because somebody else is doing something different.
Yeah.
In order for it to get into the military system, it has to have structure. And I use dogma as the word because that's generally the one that's applied to religious ceremony. But really what I mean is structure. And I think that every single kindred, if it's organized and it's been together longer than 6 months, has its own dogma. Right?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of which one can we put together in a format that's more universal and fits the most amount of people, and then we can apply that to a military model. And that's more what we're working on with our structure. And it's not that this is the only way or this is the right way. It's that this is a way, and it's a good model for you to build your practice on and a good place to return to when you get lost in the weeds. Right?
Yeah, like just create something that's bare bones basic that you know will not fail, even if you might not agree with it. Here's just a random exercise that we did in Iron Ravens for a while. If a bloat or a ceremony is happening on military grounds, no mead will be used, only cider.
Right.
If it happens off base and a DD and a plan is made to be able to help people who've been drinking has been established, mead will be the used ceremonial sacrifice.
Right.
And now, can we get away if like we were on base and we were at somebody's house and using mead? 100%. But do you run a chance of somebody under the age drinking alcohol on base? With that instance, yes. Does only offering cider on the military base cover all your bases? It does. It just sucks a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you can kind of hit those onesie twosies and everything else. That's creating that dogma, that structure.
Right.
If we're here, we do this. If we're here and we hit these check marks, we do this. You know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's not because we don't want to be able to drink mead. I mean, crap, man, I want to drink mead.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just this covers all of our bases. We
Mead?
have to create structure.
I think mead, as far as religious ceremony goes, is sort of a dogma already anyway. It's like I think across the board, for the most part, everybody uses a mead or at least a beer, an alcoholic beverage, to hold a ceremony like a bloat or a summel, right?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty dogmatic anyway. So I don't see anything wrong with building the structure for something like a military organization, right? Because every organization has its structure and has its thing, but there's no way for it to ever progress in the military unless we can dial it into a few simple structural steps. Like we have structure for our bloats, right? We do our procession, right? Yes. And then we get in there and we do our opening, which for us is the four corners. And then we do our offering of mead, and then we do our sprinkling, and then we do our horn, the horn, and then we do any other work that has to be performed, and then we do a closing.
Yeah.
Right? And any other work, those things can be structured as well. Like a Savatni has its own steps, right? Charming of the Plow has its own steps. A marriage or a naming, those things all have their own steps. But it's a fluid enough, I think, model that you could take with it, and you can do whatever you want with it. It's not like we're telling you exactly what words to say, or you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
No, there's no real script.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
just
it's
it's
kind of
just
like
a structure.
It's kind of like following a recipe and then knowing how the flavor is supposed to be, and then just adding extra spices and adding a can of this or a can of that. Like it all starts as a basic recipe.
Yeah,
like you have to learn how to cook before you can learn how to season.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Work with the recipe. And that's good. It's just a basic structure, a basic structural outline. And I think that's all the military wants. They want to know that the new guy can come in and follow the same outline that everybody's already comfortable with.
Yep.
You know?
That's all it is.
And then that will spread across all the bases. The reason that it hasn't spread, the reason that heathenism hasn't grown in the military is because we haven't established a structure, an outline yet. Alliance of Military Heathens is trying.
Oh yeah, they're what was it? Wilbur. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but like, my God, does he have a good head on his shoulders, and he is pushing.
Good.
He's pushing some
he's the
really
lieutenant,
great
right?
movements.
Is he a lieutenant?
Yeah, he's I might be a lieutenant, might be a captain, but
by now,
he has put so much work and so much effort into that group.
Is he the one I've seen? I think I've seen him on a panel with some chaplains discussing military holidays, and it was a panel, and there was a Jewish chaplain and a Catholic, and then there was him.
Yeah.
I think it was him because it was a young lieutenant, Army, I believe.
This is Air Force.
Was he Air Force?
Yeah, former age guy. Didn't start.
Okay.
But
so
yeah.
I might be wrong. But I know that there was. I know that the point is this conversation is being had.
Yeah.
Right, and they're trying to figure it out right now, and we're at a good point right here where we can actually influence that.
Oh yeah.
And if we can influence that by becoming an authority for ordination via gothi training, right? Take the gothi training, get ordained through us, follow our structure loosely, and I think that'll go a long way. I mean, it's something. It's more than what's going on now. Mm-hmm. Now it's just a lot of people just trying to figure it out, and I think a lot of people would rather be told at least roughly how to do something than to try and reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
You know, because it's hard from the start to try and figure it out. You know, to just try and, I mean, at least we have YouTube videos out now to help people. But when we started, there was no resources.
Yeah,
what?
there was nothing.
A couple of crappy books from, you know, in the New Age section.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had nothing, man. We had nothing to help us figure out how to do it. That's why when I first started going to bloats and stuff, it was really hard to say, why do you do that? Why do you do that? I didn't want to ask questions. I just wanted to just take it all in, you know, because it was so amazing feeling. So, I don't know. I got on my soapbox again. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to kick the chair out from underneath me.
It's hard, this new table, man. There's so many legs. I'm going to hit the wrong one.
Oh, yeah. That's by design. We should probably wrap this up, though.
We probably should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we covered a lot of good topics here about building a kindred and at least the difference between the models of kindreds. You guys got any saved rounds? Anything you wanted to talk about that's been banging around your head?
No, I'm just please let us know, like, in the comments or anything else, if there's anything in particular that like maybe got briefly mentioned that you want to hear specifically more on. Because like the more on the head a specific topic is, the more focused we can be on that specific topic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean? Yeah.
So like really hit some stuff.
Yeah. Any questions? Absolutely. Throw them in the comments. Let us know what your questions are, and we'll add them into a later show, or add them to do a Mind Gothi video or a Gothi school video. It all depends on the quality of your question. Depends on how far we take it with the answering of it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So. And there are high quality and low quality questions. So, you know what I'm saying? There really are. So, I guess with that, we'll just leave it there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Leave it there.
Cool, then. Thanks for hanging out with us. Don't forget to subscribe on whatever platform that you happen to be checking this out on. If you go to YouTube, look for Northwoods Kindred on YouTube. And then if you can check in the banner, we have a link tree Click on that link tree. It'll take you to everything we have across the web, from our website with handmade goods to some free downloads on gods and goddesses and ritual and all kinds of other cool stuff. Absolutely free. Some paid downloads that are absolutely worth the couple of bucks that we're asking for. We have our TikTok, which we're killing it on, at least until Congress ends it. Fuck you, Congress. And
but we'll be on YouTube Shorts.
We'll be on YouTube Shorts. So anything that once TikTok goes away, if it does, then just bounce over to YouTube, because we're just going to keep on running. We're not going to lose any momentum or steam at all. We're just going to take all that extra focus and push it all right towards YouTube, because that's where we're going to be. Right?
Yep.
Other than that, check us out. Don't forget to jump over to our Discord. Make friends over there. It is absolutely hands down the best Norse pagan collective on the internet that you can get involved with. I'll guarantee it. I'll go toe to toe with anybody on that one. So, and our mods are from around the world. We got people in Iceland. We got people in Norway. So if you want to know how Norwegians season their coffee, absolutely, we can answer that too. So, right?
Right on.
All right. So with that, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Dorvigi.
Bye, Bear.
Bye, Bear.
Bye, Bear.